All right, so here we're supposed to construct the table of basic solutions and use it to solve the following linear programming problems. So what we have is maximize p equals 36x1 plus 24x2, subject to x1 plus 2x2 less than or equal to 8, x1 plus x2 less than or equal to 5, and 2x1 plus x2 less than or equal to 8, and x1 and x2 both have to be greater than or equal to 0. So first things first, let's convert this. Let's get a writing part. Here we go. Convert this to the E system because again, this is our I system. So the E system is going to be x1 plus 2x2 plus s1, and that's going to be equal to 8. And then we have x1, 1 plus, and then we'll have x2, and then plus s2 equals 5, and 2x1 plus x2 plus s3 equals 8. And so that's going to be what we have for our table. So we're going to have an x1, x2, s1, s2, s3. Then we'll have a p, and then we have to have, it's going to be, let's see, 10 rows it looks like. Okay, so we'll have a lot of calculations to do here. So let's write out what we have. We have x1, x2, uh, my s doesn't work, s1, s2, s3, and then our p. Okay. And then we're going to have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Then we'll go over 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And then we'll have 0, 0, and then 0. Uh, uh, wrong row. And then 0, 0. And then after that, we'll have one more, and that's going to be x1, x2, s1, s2, s3, and p. And that's going to be here 0, 0. And so we'll have all of those we have to fill in. And so we're going to have quite a bit more work to do on these. And so that's why we're just doing this problem only by itself. So let's label these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, and 8. Maybe I should erase this and put it on the next row here. I'm going to run out of room. So this is going to be 0, 0, and then 0, 0. So that's going to be 9 and then 10. All right. So those are going to be what we have to find. And so let's go ahead and start plugging in and solving these systems. So notice we're going to have three equations, three unknowns. So nicely, x1, x2 is 0. All that cancels. All that cancels. So s1 is equal to 8. So s1 is equal to 8. s2 is equal to 5. s3 is equal to 8. So this one was simple because it was just plug those in for zeros and then we get our values. And p is going to be 0. Okay, so that one, not bad. Didn't even have to do a calculation. All right, so now let's go to 2. What do we have to do here? So now we have x1 and s1 are 0. So x1 is 0 plus 2x2. S1 again is 0, and that's going to be equal to 8. So x2 is equal to 4. So that's going to give us a 4. Now here we're going to have x1 is 0, x2 is 4, so we have 4, and then plus s2, that was 0, I guess. What do we have here? 4, 0. Oh, s2 is not 0, s1 is 0. s2, and then that's equal to 5. And so subtract that, we get s2 equals 1. All right, so s2 is equal to 1. So now we plug that in here, and so 2 times 0 plus x2, which we have 4, plus s3 equals 8. So s3 equals, subtract that, we get 4. So we get 4 here. And now we have 0, and then we have 4 times that, so that's going to be what, 96? Okay. And so that's what we get for that one. And that's how we're going to continue to work our way down. Now this one's going to be 1 and 0. And so for number 3, where's my pen? Here it is. What we're going to do is we're going to have I'm just going to plug in everything that we know. So we're going to have a 0 plus 2x2 plus s1 equals 8. And then we'll have a 0 plus x2 plus 0 equals 5. Well, that one we get a value out, so x2 is equal to 5. And then we have 2 times 0 plus x2 plus s3 equals 8. So if we plug in a 5 back up here, we're going to have 2 times 5 plus s1 equals 8, so 10. So s1 is equal to negative 2. Okay. And so x2 we know is 5, so that's going to be 5 plus s3 equals 8, so s3 equals 3. Okay. So now we have a negative 2, 3, and a 5. Oops, wrong direction. So we have the 5, a negative 2, and then we had the 3. And because of that negative, we have no max p here. All right, so now let's go down to the next one. 4. All right, so plugging in values again here. So we had 0 plus 2x2 plus s1 equals 8. We had a 0 plus x2 plus s2 equals 5. Then we had 2 times 0 plus x2 plus 0 equals 8. So this says x2 equals 8. So now we can go back up here. If x2 equals 8, s2 is equal to what? A negative 3. And here, if we know x2 is that's going to be a negative 16. So s1 is equal to a negative 8. Okay. So now we've got 8, negative 8, 3. So we get 8, negative 8, negative 3, another x. Okay. Now x2 and s1 are 0. So let's go here, 5. All right, so x1 plus 2 times 0 plus 0 equals 8. So that gives us x1 equals 8. Now we have the next one. Well, we have 8 already, so we can just plug that in. Plus 0 plus s2 equals 5. Subtract that, s2 equals a negative 3. And then we have 2 times 8, and then plus 0 plus s3 equals 8. So subtract 8, so s3 equals a negative 8. And so we get 8, negative 3, negative 8. So we get 8, negative 3, negative 8. And again, nothing there because we have the x, or we have the negatives. All right, so now we're on to row 6. Let's do that over here maybe. So 6. All right, so let's do x1 plus 2 times 0 plus s1 equals 8. And so then we have x1 plus 0 plus 0 equals 5. So x1 equals 5. Well, if that's 5, we take that over. That means s1 equals 3. And then we can take 2 times 5 plus 0 plus s3 equals 8. So that's 10. So that's going to be s3 equals a negative 2. So 5, 3, negative 2. 5, 3, negative 2, another x. Okay. All right, so now we have 0 for x2 and 0 for s3. Again, we're just plugging them back into this and solving. So for 7, okay. All right, so we're going to have x1 plus 2 times 0 plus s1 equals 8. And so then we have what here? X1 plus 0 plus s2 equals 5. And here we're going to have 2x1 plus 0 plus 0 equals 8. So here we get x1 equals 4. Now, if x1 is equal to 4, we subtract that over. S2 is equal to 1. And if it's 4 here, subtract that over, and S1 is equal to 4 here. So we have 4, 4, 1. So 4, and then we have a 4, and then we have a 1. And so then I'm going to use my calculator and figure out that. So 4 times 36 Oh, I guess that's all we need. So that's 144. All right, so that's 144. Now we need this one. So S1 and S2 are 0 for number 8. All right, so 8. So we have x1 plus x, oh, 2x2, sorry, 2x2 plus 0 equals 8, so that doesn't help us anything. And then we have x1 plus x2 plus 0. That's not that equals very well. And that's equal to 5. And then we have 2x1 plus x2 plus s3 equals 8. So what do I want to do? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two and figure out either x1 or x2. And if I say let's subtract it, take this one minus this one, I'm going to take a -1 times that. So I'm going to take this minus this, so I'm going to get 0. That minus that, so I'm going to get x2. That minus that is equal to 3. Okay. So x1, and therefore, if I have 3 here, subtract that over x1 has to be equal to 2. And if that's the case, we'll have 2 times 2 plus 3 plus S3 equals 8. And so that's going to be what, 4, 7. So S3 equals 1. Okay. So it looks like 2, 3, 1 is going to be my next one. So 2, 3, 1. And those are all positive. So 72 plus 96, is it 36 times 2 plus 24 times 3. That's 144 again. Okay. All right, so that gives us that one. So now let's go to number 9, which is S1 and S3 are 0. So let's go to the next page. So 9 with S1 and S3 0. So we're going to get x1 plus 2x2 plus 0 equals 8. X1 plus x2 plus s2 equals 5. And 2x1 plus x2 plus 0 equals 8. Now, let's use these two, solve for x1 and x2, and then after that we can solve for s2. So if I take maybe this one times a -2, I'll have 1 minus 4, and so it's going to be minus 3x1. Maybe we can do this. So it's a minus 3x1. 2 minus 2 is going to be 0, 0. And then 8 minus 16. So it's going to be a minus 8. So x1 is equal to what? 8 thirds. All right. Well, now we plug that back into one of these equations. It doesn't matter which one. We can plug it in the first one, maybe. So we'll have, let's actually plug it in the second one so we can solve for x2. So we'll take 2 times 8 thirds plus x2 equals 8. So that's going to be what? Minus 16 thirds. And that's going to be 24 thirds once we get the thing. So 24 minus 16. So x2 is going to be equal to 8 thirds as well. Okay. Now we can take that and solve for S2. So we have 8 thirds plus 8 thirds. So that's going to be what? 16 thirds. And so we'll have S2 equals 5 times 3. So that's 15 thirds minus 16 thirds. And so that's going to be a minus 1/3. Okay. So we've got a minus 1/3, 8 thirds, and 8 thirds. So 8 thirds, 8 thirds, and a minus 1/3. And we don't have to calculate that one, so we're good there. All right. So last one. We have a 0, 0, and S2 and S3. Hopefully we have enough room here. Let's, I guess, start over here and we'll go from there. So now we have x1 plus x2 plus s1 equals 8. We have x1 plus x2 plus 0 equals 5. We have 2x1 plus x2 plus 0 equals 8. So let's work with these bottom two again. Let's take this one maybe times a -1, and then we'll add it to the last one. So 2 minus 1 is going to be x1, and that minus that's going to be 0, that minus that's going to be 0, and then that's going to be equals 3. Okay. Now x2 is going to be equal to what? Well, if that is a 3, subtract that off, that's going to be 2, so x2 equals 2. And so now we've got those two. So if we have that, it's going to be 3 plus 2 is 5. Subtract that off, that's going to be 3. So S1 equals, wait. Yeah, let's make sure I'm doing this right. X1 is 3 and 2 as 5. This is going to be 3. Okay, I did that right? Okay, so I get a 3 and, let's see. That's a 2. Is that a 2 here? Do I have something right? Wrong? Let me look at my original equations again. Yeah, that's wrong. That's a 2. So that's for, okay. So I'm writing the wrong thing down here. All right. So now 2 times that's 4, plus 3. So that's 7. Subtract that. That becomes a 1. All right. So there you get 1. All right. So with that being a 1, now let's go back that. So we have 3, 2, 1. So if we put 3, 2, 1. Now those are all positive, so we'll have 3 times 36, 3 times 36 plus 2, 4, so that's going to be 156, it looks like. Okay. And so that appears to be the largest one. And so my solution, then when they ask for the actual final solution, is going to be the max P, or my pin max P equals 156, and that's going to be at let's see, now I've got to erase here. So it's going to be at the 3, 2, 1, 0, 0 if I write them all down, or if I just write only my x1 and x2, that's at 3, x2 is equal to 2. But this is going to be my full solution because they're going to want the s's included there for my slack variables. All right, so that gives us hopefully a beginning of what this section is about, and we can work more in class about it.